I will just wait till a few people join us. Hi, Larissa. Hi, Jess. Lovely to have you. Hey, Meg. Hi, Haley. Welcome. Hi, Renata. Welcome. Lovely to have you all here. Hello. We Dream Lights. I'm not sure what that is, but it looks good. I love that. Feel free to put your name in there too so I know who you are. It's a great little handle. So we'll just give it a minute or so just for a few people to get going, and I'm going to run this a little bit workshop-like, but then just inviting you to ask questions as we go along as well. Hi, Carly. Welcome. Hello, Aiden and Selena. So great to have you all here. And Amelia, Sonia. Love it. Amazing. Okay, well, a few people are joining in now. Hi, Em. And Elizabeth, it is Rani. All right, well, why don't we get started, and people are going to join as we go through, I am sure. So this workshop, firstly, my name is Sacha Stewart, if I haven't met you before, and I'm a kinesiologist and a mind-body medicine practitioner, and also teach meditation. But this workshop is on behalf, I'm doing this in conjunction with EpZen. They do beautiful products and also great for sleep, which is what we're talking about tonight. And really the purpose of this workshop is to just give you a little bit more information about sleep and why it's actually so important, as well as lots of tips to actually help you get a better night's sleep. I think it's something that we all probably go through stages. I know I have myself where, we have difficulty sleeping, and it's always great to have tools and things to know so you can actually really help yourself get a better night's sleep. Please just feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'll be keeping an eye on the comments in the chat, so please just ask them as we go through. But I'll start with just more like a little bit of a workshop style. So firstly, sleep really has an incredible impact on how we feel emotionally, how we feel mentally, physically. It has a huge impact on our clarity, our state of mind, our ability to learn, our memory, and to be productive. So these are all really things that can be impacted by your sleep. So firstly, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what happens to your physical body when you sleep. So when you sleep, your physical body actually restores. This is when it goes into restoration mode. Your cells repair. So particularly if you've got any injuries or any wounds, this allows them to heal. Your muscles repair. Your organs detoxify and eliminate. Minerals and nutrients are stored, and really essentially your body's going into recovery mode. So it's really important to get good sleep for your body. And another thing as well, it also boosts your immunity, which is obviously particularly important at the moment. So sleep, if you don't get enough sleep, your immunity can actually be impacted. And then if you don't have lack of sleep, it really can it can really affect your body. It has impact on things like diabetes and heart disease and fertility issues, and chronic health problems can actually really be affected by how much sleep we get. You've also probably heard the term beauty sleep, and it's actually a real thing. So when you actually sleep, your tissues are repairing, as I mentioned before. And so what this basically does is it sort of produces collagen, which is good for those wrinkles. So if we don't sleep very well, we sort of tend to get those little lines. And it also boosts the blood flow to the surface of the skin. So that's why when you have really good night's sleep, you have like quite that rosy tone, where if you don't have a good night's sleep, I know mornings like this that I felt that sort of grey hue that we sort of get if we don't sort of sleep very well. So sleep is incredibly important for our skin because of that tissue repair and the production of collagen. and also that blood supply to the skin. So it's great for that. Also, it does impact your longevity as well over time. So if you don't have enough sleep, it's very aging for you, not just for your skin, but actually for your physical body as well. So, in terms of emotionally, so sleep can really impact our emotions. It regulates your emotions. So, if you don't sleep very well, it can really impact your mood and maybe even create anxiety within. If you don't sleep very well, it really inhabits your ability to cope with stress. You tend to be a lot more reactive. So, in also too, if lack of sleep goes on for a long period of time, it can really affect your mental health. So we really want to be sure that we're getting a really good night's sleep for our emotional and mental well-being, which is very important these days. It's something that we really have to take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves. Also too, particularly what can impact our sleep is if you're having very sort of intense thinking, if you're or even if you're working, for example, right up till you go to bed, or maybe you're watching true crime on TV, that can really impact how you sleep and your emotional well-being, because it leads to you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is also releasing that cortisol and adrenaline into your body. You're almost in that little fight or flight mode. And so what we really want to do for you before you go to sleep, and I'll talk more about this in a little bit, is actually really calm your nervous system down, so you actually have an ability to have a good night's sleep, because those high stress states that sometimes we can get in right up to when we go to bed, really impact us. And I'll go into this in a little bit more detail later, but actually what we're doing in the lead up to sleep is actually in essence what your brain, your mind is kind of almost sort of like soaking in, for want of a better word, for the next 8 hours. So you really want to make sure that whatever you're listening to, or and I'm going to be suggesting later to turn off screen, but whatever you're doing before bed, we really want to make sure it's calming and positive, so you actually go to bed with a good state of mind. Even things like practicing gratitude is really helpful for that as well. And also, again, excessive stimulants can also increase that adrenaline and that sort of sympathetic nervous system reaction as well. So we really want to stay away from the things like, coffee and alcohol, which can really impact your sleep and affect you as you're going to sleep, and also during the night. The next thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is one of the things that get most impacted by not having enough sleep, which is your memory and your learning. So when you actually go into your REM state of sleep, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but this is where you actually lay down memory. And it also creates new neural pathways within the brain, laying down what you learnt during the day. And also at the same time, it actually discards what's not important. So you're actually processing during your sleep all those emotions that you've had during the day. This is also your dream state. So that's often why sort of things from our life can come into our dreams. But when we have bad sleep, it really impacts our ability to learn. It impacts our ability to pay attention, to have focus and clarity. And it's really interesting, actually, if you think about, for example, kids studying, or anyone studying for that matter. And, remember the all-nighters that maybe you used to do back in school. And in fact, that can actually really impact your ability to learn, because if you don't sleep for that quality time and get the REM sleep, which I'll have a chat about in a minute as well, if you don't get that sleep, you're not laying down the memory of what you've actually learned. So it's all going in, but you're not having this capacity to actually remember it. So sleep is incredibly important for learning and memory. They also say it's really interesting is that when you don't get enough sleep, it actually affects your mental capacity quite a lot. In fact, they say, from being overtired can have just as much impact as being over the limit when you're driving a car. So particularly if you're in if that kind of work or in things that you can really be impacted by, by sleep. Oh my gosh, there's possums out there going a bit crazy. Excuse me, I got a bit distracted then. They I don't know if you can hear them. Anyway, it can really impact you if you particularly if you're driving or you've got you really need to concentrate and be productive. It's really going to affect your mental capacity over time. There's also, we've heard the term sleep on it, so that really helps. Yes, the possums need to go to sleep. They're out there having a little fight out there. So you might have heard the term sleep on it as well. So that's a great thing to be able to do. Like if you really need to make a decision or you've got something important, it's really great to sort of take in the information during the day and then allow yourself to actually sleep on it. And because it will give you that clarity you need, because you'll process, that information that you've taken during your day. So it'll be a lot easier to have clarity the next morning. I always love that too for the overnight test. If I've been feeling a little bit overreactive or triggered, I'll give you the example, perhaps like, if you get a triggering email and maybe you write the answer to it, but you actually just park it. And then you wake up the next morning, and I know 9 times out of 10, if I've been feeling a bit triggered and I've read that email the next day, I'll actually look at it and go, my God, what was I thinking? But then maybe there's one time that I'll read it the next morning and go, actually, no, that's really valid, and I'll choose to send it. But so giving it those overnight tests really help us to remove ourselves from that reactivity as well, at the same time as helping us to make decisions. So a few really helpful things there. So what disturbs our sleep? It can be emotional or psychological stress, intense thinking, as I mentioned, working right up till you go to bed, where you're in that sort of sympathetic nervous system, excessive stimulants, poor eating habits. If you eat really late at night, your digestion is going to be working overtime, and so that can disrupt your sleep as well. Varying sleep patterns have a real impact on your sleep, as well as a noisy environment. It can impact you if you live around a lot of noise, and it can sort of wake you up, particularly in those lighter stages of sleep. Some medications can affect your sleep, but one of the biggest ones I feel like really affect us these days is our screens. So our screens have a real impact. They actually and this is not just computer screens, this is television screens as well, but they emit light into the eyes. And what happens is that actually disrupts the hormone that you need to sleep, melatonin. So that actually affects your ability to go to sleep and actually to stay asleep. And saying that as well, also the light in the environments you're in. So my house is like pretty low lighting, but if you just say you have low lighting in your house, but then you go into a bathroom that's like full bright lights, that can already sort of disrupt your sleep just as you're going to sleep. So be really mindful of that, of the light, the bright lights in your house just before you go to sleep. So what can we do for better sleep? All the tips, and as I sort of mentioned at the start, if you've got any questions as I'm going through this, please just feel free to, because I know there's been some more people join, so please feel free to actually just ask as we go along, but I'm also going to have some Q&A at the end as well. So consistency is really, really important. So going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time in the morning is really, really important, because that is for your sleep cycle and your circadian rhythm. So for example, I think the easiest way to often work it out is we normally tend to get up at the same time. So say if you get up at 6 o'clock, you want to work back, about 8 hours. So you should be going to bed about 10, at the very latest 11, to get a decent night's sleep. So consistency is important, and really only about half an hour on each side of that. And that's really going to help you create a more regular sleep cycle. And that unfortunately applies for weekends as well. It's really important that we be consistent, and having a few late nights can actually really impact your sleep over time. Power down. So I was actually just speaking a minute ago about about turning off screens. So have a ritual to sort of finish off at night, like turn your screens off like an hour before you go to sleep. Read something positive, grab a magazine or an uplifting book, or listen to a podcast, but really leaving the phones, the computers, the TVs, shutting all that down. I like to call it powering down, is a great thing to do, because that will really, it will stop that light that's coming into the eyes. It'll actually stop that sort of distraction. And also there's just the distraction and sometimes the stress just from being on our tech as well. So that's a really important thing. Sunlight during the day. So getting out in the sun is really, really important. Even just daylight, because this impacts your body clock. So we're meant to be awake during the day and asleep at night. And when we're out during the day, it produces serotonin. And that's our happy hormone. It's what makes us feel good. But we also need serotonin to produce the melatonin that we actually need to sleep. So it's really important to have that daylight during the day. And sometimes when we're really busy and we're working, we can tend to stay inside all day. So it's really important just to even get out for like 20 minutes and just get that daylight into your eyes is really, really important. I mentioned a bit earlier, finish eating, at least 3 hours before bed, so your body actually has a chance to digest your food. That's really essential too, because otherwise your body's going to be working overtime. Exercising regularly is great. The only caveat with that is any really intense exercise, I recommend you do earlier during the day, like doing it in the morning or the afternoon, and keeping more calming exercise at night. And the reason for that is that high intensity exercise can actually produce that cortisol and the adrenaline, which is actually really stimulating. So in the evenings, it's much better for you to actually have, say do things like yoga or qigong, and practices that are actually going to be more relaxing and calming for your body, that aren't producing that intense cortisol release that happens with a lot of intense exercise. As I mentioned too earlier, be mindful of what are you doing right before bed. Take it, just that last hour, have a calming cup of tea, have a bath or a shower. You've got those beautiful EpZen products that you can use in the bath, the magnesium, which is so fantastic to help you relax, and the essential oils that are really calming for your nervous system and for your body. So using those, are fantastic as well. And also too, when you actually have a bath or a shower, you can imagine washing off the stress or any tension from your day. But also what it does is it actually sort of slows your brainwave status as well. It really moves you from that thinking mind into the sensing feeling in your body. So that actually really helps to calm you. That's really more of a mindfulness practice, but that's what having that calming shower or bath does for you. Calming drinks is great, like stay away from the coffee, alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol is great, sometimes helps us to get to sleep, particularly if you feel anxious, but it doesn't let you stay asleep. So it actually really impacts your sleep, and that's why you can often feel, very tired the next day after alcohol. Stay away from sodas, black teas, and thank you, Hayley, and have things like chamomile tea or herbal tea are great. I love having reishi mushrooms at night as well. They're fantastic to help you sleep. So just having you think about what is calming for you to go to sleep, rather than the things that are really going to stimulate you. Temperature is another important thing. So having your room temperature at around between 18 to 21 degrees is best, because we heat up during the night. So if you have your room too hot, you could almost overheat, and that will tend to wake you up. Journal is another great one. Do a brain dump. Like, I think that's a fantastic thing to do. If you've got so much going on in your mind and it's very intense up there, just writing everything down can be great. Just get it, you know, out of the mind onto the page. Doesn't have to be Dear Diary or anything like that. You can almost even rip it up afterwards if you like, but just getting it out of the head is fantastic. Can you have too many hours of sleep at night? Yeah, we can oversleep. We can oversleep. So the ideal amount of sleep, yes, Larissa, it can. So I'll answer the first question. So can you have too many hours of sleep? So the ideal amount of sleep is about 7 to 9 hours. And basically, if you're going over that regularly, there's probably something that might be going on physically for you that you need to address. So if you're regularly oversleeping, you know, sometimes we can have things going on for us, like for example, when, you know, if you're not very well, if you've got a cold or a flu, or maybe you're pregnant, you know, you do need more sleep. You need sleep, you know. But if you're doing that on a regular basis, I would encourage you to address that with either a doctor or a naturopath. Any less than that is really so how the cycles of sleep, we go through about 5 to 6 cycles of sleep per night, and the last cycle, or the last stage of our sleep, so we go through several stages as well. So we also go through 5 stages and around 5 to 6 cycles. So the stages go through in the cycles, and the last stage of our cycle is the REM sleep. And what happens with that is at the start of our sleep, you know, in the early cycles of sleep, that REM stage is only about 10 minutes, and then the last cycle, it actually goes for about 60 minutes. And so that's why those last stages, those last hours are so impactful for your memory, your learning, and your emotional health. That's really everything to do with the brain. In the earlier stages of sleep, that's where you're getting, you know, the deeper sleep, where there is the more, the physical is being addressed, and that shortens as the sleep goes on, and then the REM lengthens as you cycle through, and that's why 7 to 8 hours is so important. Can eating before bed impact your sleep? Yes, it can. So I always suggest eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed to have the last sort of meal of the day, because your body needs time to digest. And also what I recommend is having a smaller dinner. I know that's sometimes hard. It's more traditional for us to eat bigger meals at night, but you're better off having a bigger breakfast and, you know, and lunch, and then having a smaller dinner, because it's better for your digestion and while you sleep. What if you keep up waking tired after 8 hours? You sleep constantly. I would say, Ange, that's a sign of something else underlying that might be impacting you. And again, usually that could be anything. It could be high emotional stress. It could be, you know, something going on, you know, physically for you. So again, I would encourage you to probably address that with a naturopath or a doctor if that's a consistent problem. Is there any more? I don't think any more questions are there. So I'll just keep going through a few of these other little things, but please, if you've got any more questions, keep asking. Now is a great time, because we've only got, my gosh, the time flies. We've got 7 minutes left, so please ask your questions. As I mentioned before, the journaling's great, and also keeping a journal beside your bed can be great as well. So if you wake up in the morning and waking up in the morning, if you wake up during the night and you can't kind of get back to sleep because you've got on a lot on your mind, writing it down can really help, and then you can put it aside, because sometimes we'll lie there worrying and you know, maybe that we don't you know, that we won't remember in the morning. So popping it to the side can be really helpful. Do daytime naps affect your sleep? They do if they go on for too long. So, you know, little naps here and there, they're not too bad, but keep them short and keep them in the, you know, earlier in the afternoon. If they're later in the day, and if they also go for a really long period of time, it'll impact your sleep, and it'll throw out your circadian rhythm. So I really recommend, if you, it's better not to nap if you can, but if you do really need a nap, it can be great just to give you a reset, but don't do it for too long. Is it best to, it's best to sleep in complete darkness if you can. How long does it take for the body clocks to... Look, it will vary depending on the person and probably how late a night you had, but it can sometimes take a couple of days, to adjust again. And the best thing you can do if you had a really late night is just get back into that regular sleep routine, going to bed at the same time each night, getting up again at the same time each morning is going to help you get back on track. But it can take anything from it also probably depends on how old you are as well. I'm definitely finding as I getting older, it affects me more having a late night, but it can be, it can take a few days. It's not great waking up during the night because you're disturbing your sleep cycles, unfortunately, waking up to go to the toilet. So again, if that's something that's happening, often waking up to go to the bathroom can be connected to your adrenal glands, your kidneys, and that can often be, signs of stress as well. So I would encourage you to look at, say relaxation practices that can help you during the day. That hopefully help you to sleep a little bit better during the night. And if it remains consistent, again, I would recommend, going to see someone like a nutritionist or probably more a naturopath or your doctor if that's a consistent thing that stays over time, because over time it can actually really impact you if you're always doing that. Yes, I can. So the REM stages. So basically we go through, they say between 4 and 5 stages. So there's a few different schools of thought, but basically the first stage is that very light stage when you're just drifting off into sleep. Then we go more into where everything sort of begins to slow down. You're still, like in that first stage, you can still be woken up. The second stage, you go a little bit deeper, and that sort of can last anywhere between 10 to 25 minutes. Then we move into more what we call our deep sleep. So this is either what some people call stage 3 or stage 3 and 4, which is really when you go into that very, very deep sleep. Your brain waves are very slow during that point. If you wake up during that deep sleep, that's when you feel very groggy and you don't really kind of know what's going on, and you can feel quite impacted. And then we move into the REM stages. So when you're in your REM stage of sleep, this REM means rapid eye movement. So when you are in that stage, your body actually goes into almost like a state of paralysis, but your brain is it's moving very, very quickly. And this is when it's actually processing the day, it's processing all the information that you received during your day. It's when you're laying down your memory. It's when our dreams are a lot more active. And so that's what's happening when you are, you're having that REM stage of sleep. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we cycle through these stages. So the deep sleep tends to go for 20 to 40 minutes and the REM anywhere between 10 and 60 minutes. So as you go along through your night, your deeper sleep gets shorter, and your REM sleep gets longer, and that's why it's important to have those 7 to 8 hours. Hi Selena, how much time should it take to fall asleep? Should be really within 10 to 20 minutes. If you are having trouble, if you're going to sleep, like literally sleep head hits the pillow, that can be a sign that you're actually not getting enough sleep because you're really, really tired and you're just like literally out like a light. But if you're still awake after an hour, that's sort of signs of possibly some emotional or physical stress going on. So you sort of want to address that. So the ideal time should be about 10 to 20 minutes to fall asleep. Have we got any other questions? It's nearly we've got 1 more minute, but I'm also very happy to stay on. One thing I did actually just want to mention, and I didn't really get to, but there's, relaxation practices like yoga nidra. I did a sleep meditation. I think it's probably a couple of posts back up on EpZen, which is really powerful too. And that's great to actually get you to sleep. But just those relaxation techniques, before bed, practicing meditation, practicing breath work, which will really, help your emotional state of mind. It will calm your stress levels and make it much easier to go to sleep and to also stay asleep. Any sleep tips for kids? Funnily enough, Jess, they're very actually similar to adult ones. They do need more sleep than we do, but that consistency is really important. So, particularly like even on weekends, not letting them necessarily stay up later, and getting them to bed at the same time, and creating a beautiful sleep routine for them, and maybe something nurturing that you do with them as you go to bed. Perhaps it's like singing to them, or maybe you read a book together, or something that sort of tells them it's time to sleep. And there's really beautiful kids meditations these days as well. My little niece loves sleep meditation. She does that. But really all the same, it's very much similar tips to adults, not turning off the screens, allowing them time to wind down. So not just being on the screen right up till they go to bed. They need almost very similar to what we do, except they just need a little bit of longer, they need longer sleep than we do. Thanks, a great question. So many great questions. Thank you. So I might finish up there. It's 8 o'clock unless anyone has any more burning questions before we finish up. And great tips. Yeah, the Relax spray is fantastic. I've been using the sleep one every night, and it's been brilliant. And I actually there's 15% off to all the sleep products at the moment, so you should jump on there. It's a great opportunity to grab some of those. I'm addicted to my Epsom salts bath, or my EpZen bath on Sunday nights. That's my Sunday routine. And I always sleep so well after those baths. It's fantastic. So thank you everyone so much for being here, and thank you EpZen for having me. It's been great to be here and talk to you about sleep. It's one of my favorite topics. So have a sweet dreams. Hey, have a beautiful rest of your night. Have a good sleep. Turn off those screens, and I hope you have a really good sleep tonight. Okay. Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye. A pleasure, Larissa. Thank you everyone. Bye. Thank you, Jess.